In this video, we're going to see some examples of some of the things we can do inside of a shell script. So the first is command line parameters. So let's print those out. We use these variables. So $0 is the command name, and $1, $2 are the subsequent parameters. So let's save this. Let's see, I don't think I've updated the permissions here, so let's do that. And then we'll run example.sh. And notice there were no parameters, so I had the script name, but then nothing else. So now I have one in hello. But notice if there's nothing there, I don't get an error. It just prints nothing. It's an empty variable. So I can echo that this is an example shell script. And I can even put in a tab here and say that this was written in 2020. And I'll even put a new line, and then I'll say, welcome. Okay, so let's see. So that's good. But notice, I just printed the /t and the /n. So first off, let's move this first. If I do a -e, now notice it printed sort of the way I would expect. So just something to keep in mind. I can comment out a line again with a hash, and so I'll do that there. So I can run a command from the shell script and echo displays something. So if I just say a plain echo, that gives me a new line, and I'll say list of files, and then there's the command. But remember, I can also run a command inside a string. So if I echo timestamp and then put date and backticks, that'll give me that. And I can also run another script. So I'll do a greeting, and again it backticks. And hopefully that's in my path when I run this. So you can see here's my list of files, here's my timestampy, I need to fix that, and there's the greeting. Put some new lines there just to make the script a little easier to see. We'll just make a comment that the first parameter should be a name, the second a number. And we're not going to do a lot of error checking for that, but we'll see what some of the things are that we can do with that information. So first off, let's say that we don't want our number to be bigger than something. So, well, first off, let's make sure we have enough parameters. I think that'll be good. So let's say if, and then our conditional on our if is surrounded by a bracket. And let's say this says the number of parameters is not equal to 0. Or no, let's say if it is equal to 0. Then we're going to echo not enough parameters. And then, oops, I need a then here. And then to close that out, I use fi to indicate that that's the end of this if statement. So this says if, and this means this is the number of parameters. If it's equal to 0, then print not enough parameters. So let's try that and make sure it works. I don't know why we're checking to see if it's equal to 0. Okay, so I don't want it to be equal. I don't want it to be not equal. I want it to be if it's less than. So that's LT or less than. And greater than is GT. And less than equals LE. It's LE. So now if I give it this, that looks good. And if I give it 0, or if I give it no parameters, oops, I didn't change this to 2 yet. So now with 2 parameters, it works. With 1 parameter, it says not enough parameters. And I think it makes sense that we should exit. And we can indicate that there's an error. We can exit and indicate that there's an error. Just say exit 1. So that gives us a non-zero return. So here, again, good example or good call with 2 parameters. But if we say with none, it says not enough parameters and then it'll exit. So that's an example of an if statement. So now let's do a for loop, and we'll just print whatever string was passed in, or whatever name, we'll print it some number of times. So we'll initialize our loop index, and actually let's do a while loop here. So while II is less than or equal to, and let's call this count, and the reason is, just in case they gave us too big of a number, let's set up an if statement. If $1, or actually let's say that count is equal to 5. Actually, let's do this. Let's say count is equal to %1. And then we'll say if count is greater than or equal to, let's say 10, then, and let's close this, then we're going to want to set count to a smaller number, or set count to 10. So we'll say count is equal to 10. Okay, so now back to our while loop. So in this while loop, we started off with a do, and we end it with a done. And we're going to echo the number. In fact, let's do this. Let's say count, and then II. And then we want to increment II. So II is equal to II plus 1. And that should do it. Let's make sure we've saved our file. So we have some errors. Command not found, 33 count. So we have that error fixed. So our next one is, so 34, if count, look at those spaces right there. And so you'll notice I got rid of that error, and it wants an integer expression because count should be .2. 2 is the number. And 39, I think we're going to have the same issue. So there we go. I don't have enough parentheses here. I think it wants a double set of parentheses. And there we go. Now I did this 30 times, and so I thought we wanted to change count. So why did we go all the way to 30? So I'm not really sure what's going on here. So let's do, we'll see, and let's do this with a smaller number just to make it a little more manageable. Okay, so line 37. No, actually, I don't want a $sign there because it's a variable that I'm setting. So let's see. Yep, there we go. Now it's actually updating the count. So yeah, that was a nasty little bug. And so one of the things I think you'll see here is sometimes debugging this can get kind of kind of tricky, and it really just takes experience and practice. There's a lot of things you run into. If you run into an error, if you Google it, you can usually find an answer. But of course, if you get stuck on something, make sure that you reach out for help. So there's a typo to fix there. Let's go back to 30, and I think let's also go ahead and print our second parameter as well, just so that we're using it a little more. Or no, not the second parameter, that should be parameter 1. Yeah, okay, I think overall that looks good. So there's a quick example of a lot of different things you can do with shell scripts.